Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and it's been a while since we've done a mod review, but a rather exciting one has recently fully released on the workshop. This mod is known as Champions of Undeath, Conquest of the Blood Dragons, and you're going to be playing as, well, the Blood Dragons, the Order Draconis. It's something so large which I really don't think I'm going to be able to cover every single detail in this video. It fully released around 2 days ago. I've been playing it really a lot during my spare time, and I must admit, very impressive mod. We're going to jump into as many details as we can, but yeah, this mod is absolutely enormous. It's going to give you a very unique playstyle, taking a lot of mechanics that are already in-game and then fleshing it out into its own form. So what we're going to do first is we're going to talk about the faction effects. So search out hidden order libraries, challenge worthy foes, and construct blood keeps all over the world to lead the blood knights into battle. These are all separate mechanics. Unit upgrades. Units need to gain experience to climb up the ranks of the order and upgrade into more powerful units. Start with free precious metal. This is one of the new resources for your faction. No access to raised dead, so yeah, no cheese there. Access to hidden blood knight outpost stance, which is an upgrade version of the encampment stance. And finally, unit experience gain per turn plus 200. I know that might seem like a lot, but believe me, it's going to be needed as you start rampaging. The next thing is the Lord effects. This is for your specific character, Warhammer. Immune to attrition from a lack of corruption for Lord's army. Attribute Vanguard deployment for all Order Draconis units in this army. And finally, recruitment duration -1 turn for Blood Dragon units to the minimum of 1 turn for Lord's army. So already some pretty interesting traits. Let's just jump into the game itself. So your campaign is going to begin in the Grey Mountains, and you're going to be a pseudo-horde faction at the very beginning. Don't you worry, it's not a horde gameplay-based campaign. But yeah, already you start off with the enemies there with the dwarfs. You're going to be fighting against Balthasar Gelt very early on, and pretty much everyone around that area. So yeah, you're going to be causing a lot more problems towards the Empire. Though this kind of makes sense considering that the Blood Keep historically is in the Grey Mountains. Games Workshop are moving that in the lore now. That is for Warhammer the Old World, so it doesn't really affect this canon. Now, Warhammer is your starting legendary lord. There's a few, which we're not going to cover all of them in this video, but we're going to cover the two main ones, I'll say. This is a character which is going to be able to be upfront and personal. You're going to have access to a decent amount of Winds of Magic. I know a lot of you are going to be saying, well, Blood Dragons don't cast a lot, and that is true, but legendary characters would generally have access to a bit more spells, so that's perfectly fine. The unique skill line is going to be focusing mostly around buffs. Yeah, loads and loads of buffs. This is going to make him an absolute powerhouse on the battlefield, and yeah, what he does well. Overall, this is a pretty interesting take because it reminds you, obviously it's focused heavily on the vampire count vanilla stuff, but expanding upon that, which I think is kind of cool. You can tell from the stats that he's going to have no problems being in the battlefield, and he does get a lot better once you start getting access to your mounts, as, yeah, I do prefer him on a mount. It makes him a lot killier, but all in all, character is very high grade, very comparable to a normal legendary lord. Gets a little bit stronger with the Disciples of Abarash, where you'll be able to just do a few things here. Obviously, it's very focused on the Chaos mechanic. So do, like, you know, win a battle against the Empire Bretonnia Legendary Lord, get a nice little buff. There's obviously ways to make your character even more powerful, and don't you worry, they've got quests that focus around items and stuff. It's just you need to go and actually level up to be able to unlock them. And this character is going to basically move around to be your starting builder in a way, because you're going to have to focus on building up a pseudo-horde. So taking inspiration from the Vampire Coast, you will also have a pseudo-horde. Some of your characters will have access to this, not all of them, and when they do, some of them will also have access to some landmarks. So yeah, overall, you're going to be able to focus on this. Now, this isn't all your roster. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, because the roster is actually split into 3, actually. Yeah, so you have 3 mini rosters, which will complete your faction as a whole. And I like the idea of it. It makes it very varied. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of similarities with them, kind of similar to how everything works with the Warriors of Chaos. But yeah, I love the idea. It's honestly very inspired, and it goes into a very different aspect of how the vampire count, specifically the blood dragons, work. You're not getting a lot of undead units, as you can see. You're instead focusing more on just a lot of elite vampires. So you're going to have access to a lot of new resources, dragon scales being the core one if you want to build new settlements, and this is mostly gained by just getting into fights, right? Doing a few different things. You can see that on screen right now. There's the other one, which is Martial Valor, which is going to kind of work like the whole soul situation for the Warriors of Chaos. And finally, Metal, Precious Metal. All of them you're going to gain quite passively. I would say that the Dragon Scales one is probably the hardest one to acquire en masse at early into your campaign, but will get easier as you progress. You can tell there's inspiration here from both the Warriors of Chaos and the Chaos Dwarfs to try and make this as fleshed out as possible. And I like the idea of it because you're going to have to move around, right? Like the first thing that you're going to use is Dragon Scales. Dragon Scales you'll get pretty early into your campaign, so don't you worry. But you can tell, you can build 3 different types of blood keeps, right? For the different types of orders that exist within the blood dragons. This really means that you're going to have access to a pick and choose. You can focus on which order that you prefer, or you can mix around. It depends completely on you. Which the orders themselves are seen as an active mechanic. They all start off destroyed and you're going to have to build them up. At the very beginning they'll provide some negatives. You will get some bonuses as time progresses and as you start to unlock them. It doesn't take too long, and don't worry, we're going to go quite detailed on this in a second, but it shows that everything is kind of linked up, and even more so as you start progressing through it a lot more. There's even some mechanics that you won't be able to see until you actually do a few specific quests. What I would say is probably find the order that you prefer and focus on that one. Naturally, I think the quests kind of push you towards the Order Draconis more than anything else at the beginning because, well, you are playing as an Order Draconis character at the start. It does make you think, especially when you start looking towards the tech tree, because there are a lot of techs here. It's not the basic vampire count one, and it's split between 4 different sections, so one being the generic, you know, this is the Disciples of Abrash section, then everything is then split towards all the different ordos. And let me just tell you, it's absolutely impressive. So, you're going to be spending a lot of the resources that you do gain there. There's a lot of, you know, vampire count blood kisses that you need to use too, because blood kisses are still a thing, and that means that you're going to have to be more aggressive towards loads of different factions to be able to pick them up. It is really cool. It is honestly really cool. I was blown away by it at the beginning. I must have been a little bit overwhelmed because I was like, wow, what is this? But it does get noticeable that you're going to need it. It's all kind of focusing on different things. So I wouldn't say that one specific tree is beneficial to you than the other. The main thing is obviously the standard one, the Disciples. It's probably going to be the every faction, every sub-faction within your faction main core one. And there's a few other restrictions, like for example, there's order libraries too, which you're going to need to go to a specific location. There's actually a fair amount of those. We'll talk about those in a little bit. The idea is you need to kind of push quite hard for everything here. You're supposed to kind of treat this as a really similar Warriors of Chaos faction rather than just it's a normal vampire count faction. You're going to be hyper aggressive. You're not really going to have overwhelming numbers as the other factions do. And yeah, I'm all for it. I like the idea of having to push out and just go out there. You really won't even have vassals to take advantage of. So you just have to literally be as aggressive as possible. If you want these techs, you need to get blood kisses. And the main form of blood kisses is literally just taking out factions, isn't it? Well, faction leaders and stuff. Agents are going to be relatively useful for you here too, so make sure that you actually use them, because I made that mistake and it took a lot longer to progress than I would have liked to admit. All the specific ones for each of the orders are going to be focused on, around, you know, buffing up, getting some extra hero recruit rank and so on for the specific heroes, also boosting up the troops for that specific order. You get a lot of that in the basic one too, but if you want to make them even stronger, this is where you have to start diverting. Some of them might even have some bonuses towards all factions or characters. It depends. It's, again, playing a finding game. I love tech trees like this. I've absolutely adored a multi-section tech tree ever since we saw them with the Chaos Dwarves. It's something that I want to see more often with different factions, and it's nice to see modders making good use of it too, because it definitely makes things look a lot better. It definitely makes things look less jumbled and less ugly, you know? Especially when you've got so much, it's better to just separate it so then you know, okay, I just need to go to the Order Draconis stuff if I want to focus on Order Draconis stuff. Unless you're very used to the vampires and know how to farm the blood kisses very quickly, you're not going to be blasting through this too, so you're going to be able to focus around and go to different locations. But the way I saw it is once I started getting more armies out there, because there are some limits to how many armies that you can have, then it's going to be easier to be able to pick up more and more and more. So it's all a case of just pushing out and just trying to see how quickly you can get it for the specific benefits that you do want. There's certain cases that you might not even use it that much. And throughout this video, I'm not really showing optimal stuff. I'm literally just showcasing the mechanics and just all the little toys that you'll be able to play with. My suggestion is, if you download this mod, have a quick look through the technology tree so you know exactly where you'll want to go through first, as you don't want to make the mistakes that I made, especially if you're trying to go for more growth, for example, or you're trying to get certain other mechanics. But we have to talk about the libraries, and the libraries themselves can be found kind of like the Books of Nagash. It's literally the same mechanic, and it's located in certain areas. You're going to have to go there. You'll get army capacity for that. Don't worry about the ones that are like really far away, as you actually will have a benefit to that. You will unlock teleporters, which will make it less of a slog. These libraries will also have access to landmarks, and those landmarks are fairly powerful. I'm not showcasing literally everything in this mod. Trust me, you're going to want to play this anyway. It's one of the few reasons why I haven't uninstalled Warhammer 3 at this point. So there is a lot of mechanics, as you can tell, because you do also have Martial Valor, which is pretty much the Beastman mechanic to increase unit capacity. You've got upgrades and items there too. It's going to be quite beneficial for you, especially the whole thing about increasing the level of lords and heroes, because you're going to be fighting a lot. You're going to want them as prepared as possible before you start taking some damage here and there. And we haven't even gone through all the mechanics yet. This is the fun thing. There is literally that much to do with this freaking mod, which is so, like, impressive. It is so impressive. I mean, if we move on, we also have unit upgrades, which we know about, which are separated into multiple different circles there. You've got the different orders, you've got all the different things there. So you'll be able to upgrade certain units. You do have access to some basic skeletons, as you know, which, believe me, very useful at the very start of your campaign. But then you're going to start getting so many different types of vampires that, yeah, it's not really going to matter that much, to be honest. You're going to have so many different types of vampires that you're going to have something for everything, barring, you know, like, basic range and stuff, because that's not a vampire thing. However, don't you worry, like, the vampires are more than capable of doing a lot of damage. You'll see a bit of a showcase a little bit later on. The main thing is you're going to need more and more martial valor, which means that you're going to jump into a lot of combat. Again, one of the key focuses here is keeping as aggressive as possible without obviously destroying yourself, but yeah, it honestly works out quite well. So dragon scales are the only way that you'll be able to build up an empire. You can build up blood keeps, and this can be done in major and minor settlements. The minor settlements will also have walls. So there's different types. We're not really going to go over all of them because they are kind of the same acting depending on what you're going for. Some of these areas will obviously have landmarks, those will be clearly mapped out, but it works in the same way, right? So the Order Draconis one is going to focus on the basic blood dragon units, right? This is going to allow you to build up some certain dudes, get some certain bonuses, get better garrisons in those areas. It all depends on pretty much how you focus on building up and how much you have. So keep in mind that you need dragon scales to also upgrade your main buildings too. A little shout out to the plane that decided to take off, as you could have probably heard. But yeah, this is a pretty cool system. What I like to do personally is literally just dedicate a whole province to one of the blood keeps and then kind of mixing and match. In my own personal playthrough, I've taken over a fair chunk of the map, and what I've actually done there is I've done one section for the Order Draconis, the other one for the Drakenhof Templars, the other one for the Depth Guard, and just kind of go with that. It kind of is cool, you know? There's no corruption that is separating them. It's just literally different minor factions and just trying to see how far I can take over. Another new mechanic is the Clarion Call, which is going to be multi-purpose. At the very beginning, you'll need to pick up Null for it, and as you do that, you'll get the rumors that Abarash is around, so you'll be able to pick up a brand new character, new legendary lord. There are multiple in this mod, by the way. And yeah, it's kind of cool. It gives you quest battles to go to different locations, and these quest battles, there are a lot of quest battles that have been added in. I don't tend to show quest battles, mostly because you know, I kind of like leaving some stuff for you guys to have fun with, but they are actually very, very, very cool. Now, the other thing that this mechanic does is it can spawn in witch hunters, which unfortunately, when I did this, I wasn't paying attention, so it got away and I won't be able to catch it, which is another way to get more dragon scales, and also can have a chance of spawning an army for you. These kind of work like bloodletting armies. They don't replenish, but you can use them to take over other settlements and so on, and they're fairly decent. They can also be upgraded too. But you will be able to get Abarash very early into your campaign, depending on how you move around. You'll get the option, if you want to turn him into a legendary lord or a legendary hero. That is completely up to you. I like having a legendary lord though, because he is also a pseudo horde, and you want to take advantage of the pseudo horde characters if you can, as they will be very beneficial to you if you start trying to push out and be as aggressive as possible. It very much, again, is up to you. That's one of the things here which I like about this mod. There is a lot of different options, and there's a lot of different playstyles. Stuff like this is showcasing how good it is, you know, it's kind of DLC quality, and I like it. Now, the character himself is very good at melee combat. Of course, he is the sire of the Blood Dragons. He's supposed to be one of the best. He doesn't have a unique skill line, and that's because he works in a very different way to most other characters. He actually has a combined system, which makes him, well, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, absolutely terrifying, and I think that's the best thing possible, really. For example, defeating other legendary characters will get you new traits. So yeah, pretty much everyone's been added in as far as I'm aware. It's very impressive, in all honesty, for a mod to do this. And it's going to make your character much, 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 much stronger. You're definitely going to want to start hunting down characters. It is going to be an incentive for you to try and keep certain factions alive, like Gelt at the very beginning until you get him, and then go down with Abarash to go kill him. Which, yeah, fair enough. It doesn't really take that much restraint, I guess. But there's other things too. You have to look towards, like, for example, he's got an item system like Daniel. So this is very different because there's no glory mechanic. There's no planning what to dedicate to. Instead, these items are all unlocked via quest system, right? There's very intricate quests that will spawn after certain times. That's kind of like a rival system. And yeah, I mean, this is very early onto the campaign, so I don't really have that many items. But the idea is, this is something kind of fresh. I love the idea of this because at the end of the day, that's what Abarash does. He goes out and he duels people. It's very, very unique. It's a unique take on a mechanic that we already have access to. And yeah, it's probably one thing that I thought, wow, like that takes a lot of thought to make something this special. Especially since a lot of modders have gone out and said that, yes, this is one of the more complicated things to be able to mod itself because it's a very unique system. Obviously, people have not been able to play around with that before. It's seriously, hats off to the modders. This has been absolutely impressive. I can't believe so much work has gone into a mod. It definitely needs more attention. And, well, I guess that's a reason why I'm making this video, because I like to highlight mods like this. But, yeah, it absolutely took my breath away. Blood Dragons, I know, were very popular in the tabletop, especially when you could do that Blood Dragon list in 6th edition. So, it's really nice to see this. Like, goddamn. And the last mechanic is something that you might remember, that this is called orders. Instead of using the bloodline mechanic, you're going to be focusing around all the different types of orders within the Blood Dragons. And this is the only way that you'll be able to build, by the way, because you'll need to actually build up with that order to be able to not only build at the first level, so already 2 Blood Kisses, the basic building for the specific order, but if you want to get them higher, if you want to upgrade them, you will need to actually spend the other Blood Kisses, which I think the next one is 4 and then the last one is 6. So this is why, again, you'll want to focus on the Order Draconis just to be able to get everything that you can and then start going on to the other ones. You'll be able to get other Legendary Lords through that too, which I won't be covering there, but what you can see here is when you do go for, say, for example, the one focused around the Death Guard, then it opens up a portal. Well, it's not really a portal, it's a travel option, but from Marienburg all the way pretty much to the Grand Cafe, you're going to get a few of those as you progress through your campaign, which means that you're going to be able to hunt down all the specific different locations for your libraries and get all the bonuses that you actually want. And this kind of works the same way if you want to pick up some of the Lord options, because if you're going to be playing as a specific order, or if you want all of them, yeah, you do also have Lord options for that. Meaning that if you want a Blood Dragon Lord for your Blood Dragon armies, you can. If you want that for the Death Guard ones, then you can too. it's a pretty cool system. Obviously, they're not going to be focused too heavily on magic. Some of them will have a little bit more magic or better magic than the others. But it's focused on being themed, right? And I kind of like the idea. This, again, means that you have options to play around with. This means that you have pretty much everything that you might need for separate characters. There is a little bit of a bug with the, what's it called, the Goblin unit card shows up. I think that's just a generic thing when something happens internally with Total War Warhammer. It's kind of funny when that happens, though. But yeah, all the different orders, everything is represented. You have all these different lord options. They all have their own stylized look. I absolutely adore this because it literally adds in a little bit more flavor. It adds in everything that you're going to need in terms of having separate armies. Again, it's like playing the Warriors of Chaos when you play as Archaon, for example, and you've got an army devoted to Slaanesh, an army devoted to Nurgle, and an army devoted to Khorne. This is the same thing. The only difference is obviously you only have access to 3 different things rather than 5, which is probably better to manage anyway. The same thing happens with all your different hero options, and yeah, I mean, it kind of is great to have all the different options. I'm just going to show one. You do also have access to a Blood Aspirant, which is probably going to be your main spellcaster, but you can upgrade them in a similar way to the Chaos Warriors. I love the use of multiple mechanics here. It definitely makes it kind of feel like, oh yeah, I want to join this order, I want to join that order. But I've been using him as a spellcaster more than anything else because you are limited in spells when it comes to other orders. So yeah, you want to keep the basic one. And it can handle its own. It's already got good stats and stuff. Although you're perfectly fine without the spellcasting, I just say it's kind of nice to have a few different options as you're going to be getting into a lot of fights, and it does help a little bit, especially as you start pushing up north to deal with the Warriors of Chaos, if you start going up that way. I like to Empire build. I don't know about you guys, you might just be focusing on getting the campaign done, but I generally, when I play a campaign, I play around 400 tons or so it's one of those things where I like to push around, I like to do as much as I can. Again, completely up to you. You can just go full. And I mean, it works very, very well. The roster itself is obscenely large, by the way. I wasn't able to literally cover everything. There are loads of legendary heroes and a few other legendary lords, but those are best left for you to discover and just kind of go through it. I must admit, I also don't have that much time lately, as I've been working on some stuff with some local companies and I've not had that much time to have to YouTube lately. To be honest, it's kind of my fault. I should actually record this stuff when I play on my own personal time, but normally with then I just play as a fan rather than, oh, YouTube time, right? But you've got units for literally everything, literally not only just the fact that it's free orders, because you can mix them around if you so wish. It's more of the case of there is so much here. It is so cool to see a lot of different options and stuff that you pick up from questing, naturally just playing through. The units look absolutely awesome. I must say, I love the Drakenhof Templars. I think that they look incredible. And there are a lot of different things. You'll see them as we start scrolling through. Some flying units to give you that little bit of an edge. Obviously, some Griffin type units that you can have flying on the floor. There are flying Varghulfs that are heavily armored, which to me sounds like the stuff of freaking nightmares because they're in multiple entities. But yeah, I must say, one of the high quality mods that, yeah, needs a lot of attention from the fan base. If you've been a bit burnt out with Total War lately, if you've been burnt out with, well, literally everything, because let's be honest, it's not been a great time for the Warhammer community or just in Total War in general. This is definitely something that's going to give you that interest to play a little bit more. It's definitely going to give you that interest to keep on going and just having a little bit of fun, which I think is really, really important. I know, guys, I've been feeling it too. You're not the only ones. So when things like this come out, where high quality mods come out, I know some of you guys might not play with mods, but trust me, it does enhance your experience. It does give you more to play around with. You see all these really good looking units. You see all these amazing different types. There's obviously some really, really cool ones. Making use of assets that are already in game and just kit bashing. This to me feels like Warhammer Tabletop, right? Because so much kit bashing is involved with these types of things. And it really shows the love and attention. Yeah. Like, you're going to love this. You're absolutely going to love this. I really like seeing those, well, I want to say skeletal demigryphs, but they're actually a different skeleton. I'm not too sure what skeleton that is, but it's great to see that, right? there is so much kit bashing involved. I do have a few ideas for a paint scheme now for the Drakenhof Templars, because I was wanting to make a few on the tabletop for my own army, and I might have to steal this paint scheme. Base memes, if you're watching, thank you. There have actually been a few times where the mods in Total War have inspired me for my own tabletop armies and so on, which I absolutely adore. When something like that happens, it's kind of like going full circle, which I think is really, really cool. But with that being said, yeah, this mod can be found in the description below. Download it. If you're gonna love the vampire stuff, you're gonna love this. And in general, again, something that you're gonna want to play out if you want just to have some fun. I know Shadows of Change was a bit of a letdown, and we're gonna have to wait a while for Thrones of Decay, and we still don't know what's coming in Thrones of Decay. Hopefully, Creative Assembly have learned. But like I've said, and I've been a very big advocate of, the modders are still keeping this game alive, and they deserve a lot of attention. So I'm going to let the rest of the battle play out. You can find it here in the description below. Let me know what you guys think about this mod in the comments below. Let's start a bit of a discussion. I'll see you all again very, very soon, guys. Have a good day.
With haste! With haste! Swiftly! With haste! Give us blood! We thirst! Vampire Law! Swiftly! With haste! Swiftly! With haste! Swiftly! Invader! Destroy the undead! Knights! Knights to battle! Swiftly! Serve me! Vampire Lord! The cattle rise against us! Slay them! With haste! Send them back to them! With haste!
We fighters, real companions!
Rip their souls out!
Let these lads!
Blood magic! To all! Vampire Lord! Undeath Ascendant! Vampire Lord. Yes, herd the cattle. Swiftly. Warlock! Tonight I feast. With haste. End them.